that it's Friday night. I've got Josh Williams, John Gibbons and Craig Hannan. We're obviously going to have a little bit of a chat about what happens to Liverpool in France, but it's all about the big one on Sunday. And indeed, John, this is the first thing about what happens in France and where the line is in terms of how much is he making his decisions based on what he wants to do on Sunday, how much does that influence his outlook, full stop, what his plan is, how do you feel as though, you know, he's looking to Sunday off the back of what you saw in France? Because I think he's ended up with more questions than answers in a way.
He has. He talked about the problems that they've had, not just in France, but also in Luton, and he talked about putting them right. And then I think it was just Rob Jones from Liverpool who ended up doing a bit of a chat that became a press conference, and he was like, you know, how are you going to do that? And he said, well, you'll see on Sunday. I think they're fairly sure that they know sort of what's happened, what's gone wrong, and what they can do to sort it. It's largely an intensity issue, I think, and you know, he's talked a bit about Sunday, about it being like, it doesn't matter how much better you think you are than the opposition. If they're running harder, if they're first and second balls, and if they're winning your battles, then you're going to sort of struggle. And so I think that's almost point one. Today in training, tomorrow when they meet up, and then Sunday when they go on the walk, I think he's going to be looking for them to win 50-50s against grannies on the on the pavements and stuff like that, and he's going to want an intensity for them from the off, and that's what we want to see as supporters, don't you? You pretty much know within the first 5-10 minutes whether Liverpool are at it or not. Listen, yeah, they've crept into games a little bit more this season than they sort of did last, but the team seems to be interesting because there's a few that obviously don't play, but you fancy maybe was holding back a little bit for the weekend, and so I'm hopeful that we'll get at least one of Gravenberch or Jones, if not both of them. I think they'll make a massive difference if they are both there in terms of the energy and physicality that they bring. And yeah, just hopeful for much better, but you know, so is the manager and so the players, you know what I mean? They're not there sat there thinking, oh yeah, what a great week.
Yeah.
You know, they know.
But for me, Josh, this is, and I think it takes time for a side to get to this point of being able to find a way to win without having to be absolutely super intense. And I just don't think the side's at that point yet. I think it's either, I don't think the side can do second gear at this point. And there was even a period during, you know, the best years we've had under Klopp where you could have laid that charge against them. They could win 11 games on the bounce, and then they tried to win one in second gear, and it'd all go badly wrong. And I think that's something that's really hard for football teams to do, and especially when you're coming up against an opponent who's desperate to be super intense because it's such a massive night and a massive opportunity for them, and that's the way last night plays out.
And Sunday.
And Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, I actually think this season elements of the previous side have came back in terms of being able to win when you're not at your best, but there's a difference between winning when you're not at your best and winning when you're not intense, and I think that's where the gap is. I think we can win games now with this team when we're maybe having a bit of an off day and things like that. Like I think, for example, the Luton game, that felt like a really bad performance when I was watching that game, but then you check the numbers after it and we posted shots with like 3 expected goals. Maybe that's a lot. That should win you the game most weeks, and that was a really bad performance in my head. But then a few days later we see what is a performance that lacks intensity, and it looks a lot worse in terms of being able to get a result. It's a lot harder, and Klopp's been really firm on that in his post-match stuff. He said it last season. I think there was shades of last season in this performance against Toulouse. And
a couple of players who looked like they put certain things behind them last season.
Yeah.
It's from last. I thought showed shades of last season, and that was a concern, to be honest with you. That's one to carry forward.
It looks like a complacency thing a little bit like we've done it, we're above this. And to be fair, the team last season for the most part had done it. They had just pretty much won everything. They really came close to a quadruple and stuff, but didn't quite get there. But they won every trophy available to them. And some of them players are still there now, but it feels like a new team. It feels like we're working towards something different now. You just gotta, I think Klopp will be keen to stamp out any hints of like, we're already there, you know what I mean? We've already arrived at where we want to be, we're nowhere near that yet.
Yeah. We are nowhere near where we want to be. I'll come back to that, Josh, because I think that there's so much to play for over the course of this campaign, and that's why Sunday, you know, does matter, but it's also why getting out of this group top matters as well, because they want to not have to have the double header. They're still in in really nice position to do that, but they've got to win the right to play every game, and I think that you can go through that. So I think it's such a missed the poor performances. So Wolves, they're not very good first half, but by the time you get to 60 against Wolves, they're still not playing great stuff, but they've won the right to play great stuff. They've seized that. You know, you think about a few of the poorer performances, the way in which the games have gone, or results, scorelines that have maybe been a little bit tight. They don't start very well against Bournemouth, but by the time you get to minute 35, they've won the right. Last night, they never win the right. When they've lost it, especially from when they go 1-0 down to when they go 2-0 down, they never look like getting it back. And I think remembering that the first thing you've got to do is win the right to be the better team, I think that's the thing that'll stand them in good stead.
Yeah, well, I remember a game a couple of years ago. It was one of my favourite games on the clock. I think it was just Premier League against Sheffield United at Anfield. Chris Wilder was in charge at the time. And we treated them honestly like they were Real Madrid. The way in which we ran, covered ground, put a foot in, and then play football to win the game. I think we ended up winning like 3-0.
You talked about it after Wilder, didn't you?
Yeah.
About a lesson
well, that's
like,
why it sticks in my head, because
yeah.
he specifically said they ran more than us, they ran harder than us. We proper praised the way in which the players applied themselves on the pitch. And I think that was what was lacking against Toulouse. The application of executing the plan on the pitch. I think that's where the tactical thing comes into it, in terms of pundits putting the application first, which is right. I think the bottom line is you have to apply yourself, and then the tactics almost come into it later. And against Toulouse, we just didn't really turn up in that sense and got punished for it.
The punishment was stark. I think it's important to give Toulouse some credit. I think from 45 to 60 they can't play any better. They keep Liverpool boxed in, they take the breathers when it's there for them. It's a great goal, the second. I mean, for that lad, the touch and finish, smashed into the bottom corner. It's a brilliant bit of football. And I just think it's important to make sure that us, forget them for a second, we got the humility to be able to say of Toulouse and to Toulouse, did really well, and they got what they deserved. I'm glad it hasn't come up so far, and I'm only mentioning it once, I'm not mentioning it again. I don't give a fuck about the refereeing decision, because Toulouse deserved to win and Liverpool deserved to lose. Yeah. And that to me is the beginning, middle and end of the matter.
Yeah, and I think... So I was more relaxed after that game last night than I think a lot of people were, and I think so. From 45 minutes, that game became Toulouse's essentially the biggest game of their careers, because the manager was able to say to them, "You're 1-0 up against Liverpool. This is your chance to beat Liverpool," and suddenly the stadium's up, and Liverpool don't come out in the second half anywhere near the level that we want them to, or I expected them to, but I think the mindset around the Europa League. It looked like a team who knew that they're pretty much through, that all they need is, a win or whatever, and it looked like a team who suddenly that game became the biggest in their lives. And I think it's very easy for us to say that it has to be 100% every single game. I know that's what we want and we expect, and the fans paid their money to go out to Toulouse to watch, which is my favourite one, because they all had a brilliant time.
Yeah.
See all their mates on Instagram playing karaoke afterwards.
Yeah.
But
let's not worry about those pricks.
Yeah, my Twitter's full of people who aren't there moaning and people who are there going fucking boss night that.
Yeah. And so, I'm more relaxed. If that was a Premier League game, then I would absolutely be losing my shit, and I would include it in the context of what happened to Luton. But we made 7 changes from Luton. It's different players. You've got a goalkeeper in there that's not Alisson. You've got someone like Simicast, and you're looking across the team, and it doesn't look like the Liverpool team. And so I'm sort of more relaxed. I think we do need a reaction on Sunday, but then we've been saying that if we come through this period, with winning most of the games and going into City within a sort of punching distance, really, then we're in really good shape. And if we beat Brentford, we're in punching distance of City.
We are indeed. More on that in a second. We are partnering with Erdinger on a Friday night. It's an absolute pleasure. I've got Craig and John on for the first time together, and I want to do this and be mean to you, out of mischief. You both went to Erding. How good was it?
Amazing. Yeah, we went for a high-powered business meeting.
Oh, how did it go? Got some high-powered business done.
Didn't see a meeting room. Barely saw the chair, to be honest with you. I was largely stood up, drinking wonderful Erdinger. Tastes even better.
I have these things, I don't know what those are called.
Tankard,
Tankard, yeah. I honestly did think we were going over for a meeting. We didn't know what we were going over to, and it turned out it was a beer festival, which sounds like a blag.
Did you acquit yourselves well?
Oh yeah.
The best. I'd say.
The best.
We gave it our all. We left everything. We left it all out in the pitch.
Craig was banging into it. He was like, the outfits, he was like, we're getting them next year, we're getting them next year. He was shazamming the umpire bar songs, the umpire band songs, like trying to find them to take them home with
Next
him.
morning it was just German like rock songs.
Tremendous.
Yeah, Oscar, I think, there's not loads of way there, but go for the, what's it called, the Herb Festival they call it?
Herbs Festival, yeah.
Go for that.
Herbs Fest.
Go for that. They did. They had a fantastic time. We're delighted to be partnered with Erdinger. We think they're fantastic people as well. Drink more of it, etc., etc. But, you know, that's that.
It's another episode of my favourite season. It is John Gibbons to talk about their favourite season supporting Liverpool and the one that they have all picked. It is 2017-18.
So like big European nights, like big moments that sort of took you by surprise, and it just felt like we were watching Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool arrive.
But it was just the point. This was like peak Champions League, wasn't it? For a few years, it was just like incredible.
It was the kind of thing where so much was going on. It was like, okay, fuck what they said, I'm getting excited. And more epitome of that than anyone else, obviously, is that little Egyptian fellow who came into the team.
It's one of them, like you sort of like you raise up and you raise up and you raise up so much as he's going through, and then suddenly he chips Ederson. And like when I watch that back, I can't believe I'm a part of the celebrations in that way, because I'm like, how did I end up the right way up or even alive? Because honestly, it's like an absolute bear pit, that like the thing that he then turns towards and faces.
I just remember looking around and thinking, fucking hell, this is what being at a Champions League semi-final in the away ground feels like. It was sort of everything you'd hope it would be.
Genuinely, whenever someone mentions that game, that is the first image that goes to my head. It was so exciting at that time because it's such a thrilling goal. It's the goal that everyone dreams of scoring, and it's like just running the length of the pitch.
It was a 3-day bender, is what I would say.
If there was any particular stories you'd like to tell for the weekend, it's up to you, mate.
Am I alive?
It's up, you say whatever you want.
And Erdinger, please.
Stop!
Don't forget the best bit.
Welcome back. Erdinger in Nova Scotia on this Friday night. I've got Craig, I've got John, I've got Josh to talk about the serious business, the very serious business. There is pressure on it, I think, Josh, now, given Thursday, but given last Sunday, given what we want this season to be, because I don't think there's pressure on it in terms of whether or not Liverpool are going to be in the fight for top four. We know that, but they've got to win the home games if they want to be in the fight for the thing that we really want. And I think that they can be in that. I think they deserve to be in that conversation, but they've got to win on Sunday. They've got to prove it again.
Yeah, as you say, a lot of pressure on it now, coming out of nowhere really. We were flying high a couple of weeks ago. Now we look like we're on the back of 2 bad results. Need to get back on track. And it's a difficult fixture as well. It's a proper banana skin fixture, this, because like, if you look at what they offer as a team, it's similar to what we've kind of struggled with the past 2 games really, in terms of like, you know, a really firm defensive block, kind of deeper, probably going to get us on a break, probably going to focus on set pieces and things like that. And we're going to have to prove that we can deal with that, because so far we haven't really proved that. So far this season, we've coped better in the big games than we have against the weaker sides really. And if you're looking to win a league title, mate, that's one thing that Pep Guardiola, like over the course of his career, he just sweeps aside the minnows really of the league. Liverpool needs to start doing that, and Brentford are kind of like the best of that kind of version of a team, if you like, in the league, along with maybe West Ham in terms of the way they play and that. So it'll be a difficult game, and it could have been a nice one for us to watch, but it's going to be one of them where I think it's going to be a bit nervy.
They beat Everton, they beat West Ham, they beat Forest. So, you know, they've done some of that at home this season. Brentford's the 4th one who are in that category of where they do need to get a result.
I mean, they beat everyone at home. You know, they've got a perfect record, and you're going to get mentioned that. He said, but we are at home, and so you know, you'd usually expect us to do it, but like you've both said, there is a bit of pressure on now. You say you're not worried about top 4, Neil, but I worry a little bit that, you know, last year you didn't really have the stomach for the fight for the top 4 fight, and then ended up sort of not getting there because they couldn't get up for it basically. Now, being in the Europa League this year might show having a few minds on that, but it might not necessarily, and so I think we need to feel like we're in a title fight for as long as possible to mean that if we don't end up winning the title, or by March we say, oh, it's not there, at least, you know, you think of, well,
you got the points in the bank.
You do the consolation. I think the concern is that if they don't beat Brentford, and say they draw to Brentford at home, and then City, where it's 5 points, then you're coming back to play Man City thinking, fucking hell, if they beat us, then it's 8 points, then is it almost done? You know, with City's track record and things like that, and sort of what they've done, that's my worry. But obviously, if we do win, then no matter what they do, we can go at least level with them if we beat them, and so it's the whole mentality, I think, of suddenly, like, you know, if they drop points this weekend, then suddenly you think we'll beat them, and, you know, we go above them and maybe even top, depending on all the results. So it's all about the mentality for me going into that City game, which means winning this is absolutely massive, and by hook or by crook you need to do it.
It's one where Josh has said about they're going to come, they're going to be robust, they're almost certainly going to follow the blueprint they set up against Chelsea. They're going to sit deep, they're going to look to get set pieces, they're going to look to do all the bits and pieces. The question then becomes what we do and where we are for selection. Now, it's difficult to say because a couple of these are around injuries, but for me, he's got a clear selection question at left back. He's got a selection question in midfield that might kick onto right back if he decides to use Trent in midfield, which I don't think is beyond the pale. And then he's got decisions to make as to what to do up top. And I'd even say he's got maybe a bit of a chat about the formation. He might decide as a one-off to play a bit of a different formation. Let's start with left back. What do you think he's going to do?
I think he's going to go Tsimikas, but I would do Gomez, but I would do Gomez in a way that isn't him bombing up the wing, that it's him sort of sitting in a little bit like City do with Aki. That's what I would do, because you know, the interesting thing, when I watched Brentford Chelsea, actually, because they were part of my bet, and Brentford looked as dangerous from their own from corners that they were defending as we like to think we are. They were so good on the counter in that game. A couple of times I think their second goal comes from that. And I just feel like Gomez gives you a bit more defensive protection. And like I say, I don't want him bombing up. I don't want him trying to do Tsimikas and getting in and crossing. I don't want him trying to do an Andy Robertson. I want him trying to do a Joe Gomez and that sort of as a 3 almost. And then have Trent play the sort of hybrid role. That's what I would do.
What do you think he'll do? What would you do?
I think he will go Tsimikas. I would do Gomez right back, and I would do Trent as McAllister. I think the Gomez left back thing, the issue I would have with that, especially against Brentford, is the width problem. Because obviously he's inverting, everybody's inverting, we've got no players who want to be out wide. You're probably going to need that, you're going to break down a block. I think Trent is probably most suited to being kind of like that hold and sitting player, and I think he's almost... to be honest, when he came on against Toulouse, it looked to me like he didn't want to defend. It looked like he wanted to come on and kind of like, you know, get Liverpool back in the game by being a bit of a quarterback, but the defensive side, maybe a bit of an afterthought, and I do think he's a bit prone to that. And I do think, if you asked him, to be honest, I think he would favour a permanent shift into the middle of the park to get away from that once and for all type thing. And maybe this could be the test that we see that. He's only really done it for England. I don't think he's actually started in a competitive game for Liverpool as a midfielder and finished the game as a midfielder, and this could be a test to get that one done with Gomez tucking in alongside him, give him a bit of support. But yeah, I think that's what I'd do.
You could even play Endo and Trent and just say, okay, well, we'll get a double pivot for this one and just give Szoboszlai complete freedom, especially if Gravenberch and Curtis Jones aren't available, both of them. I think there's maybe an argument to do that. I like the idea of Trent in midfield in this and unleashing something a little bit different, but if it was Trent, Szoboszlai, Elliott, I think is what it'd have to sort of be, then I'd worry a little bit about that midfield.
But you could play 4-4-2, couldn't you? And you could play Trent and Enzo in the middle, Szoboszlai on the right, Salah and Nunez, and then Jota or Diaz on the left.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I'd worry a little bit more about Trent in the centre in the 2. Than I would a 3. I think a 3, especially if you've got Endo alongside him, just tackling him, winning the ball and then giving it to him, he'd been able to express himself. Szoboszlai there as well. I think I'd feel a little bit more secure about that. I think, you know, it is a tricky one, because if you're pushing Trent in midfield then and then you're picking Gomez and Tsimikas, then you're sort of limiting your attacking options from full-back. Listen, both of them are capable of doing, you know, pretty good performances there, but you know, you sort of you might be a little bit blunt. I don't know. I think it is one where you're relying on your forwards, wherever you say, to have a really good day, because that's where we are strong. And so you're always sort of relying on them to sort of get you through in this game, which they can. You know, we can have a bit of a game where we look a bit more solid and doing spectacular what we wanted, but your forwards get you 2 good goals and you win 2-0. That's what I've got my fingers crossed for.
What are your thoughts on midfield?
I think that...
Let's say Gravenberch is nearly fit, Jones is out.
I think I'd be inclined to agree on it. You see, I'm thinking about this game as well with City in mind, and I know that sounds mad because I know McAllister will come in. So from a midfield point of view, that's not. I mentioned Gomez earlier because I was thinking about ways in which we get Gomez in and not have Tsimikas against City. So that was one of the reasons, like taking a look at what that looks like alongside Trent in the right. I just don't think he puts Trent in midfield. I think he's had opportunities to do it and he hasn't. So I'd be inclined to go Enzo in the same way that Gibbo. I also think Szoboszlai might be a decent 6. I just don't think we'll see him. But maybe in a double pivot sort of thing, he might look good. I also like the idea of Elliott coming on off the bench. I think he's been brilliant this season. And I think he was one of the sort of better players the other night. You know, he obviously comes on against Luton and makes a real difference. I think having that in our back pocket in case things aren't going our way will be.
You might use Gakpo in midfield.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not either. And there's just something about Gakpo in his recent performances. He hasn't, you know, particularly the other night. It just wasn't. He's in and out of games in a big way, and that he's out of games a lot of the time. And so he's another player that I like bringing on.
You'd like him bringing on. You just don't like how
when he's coming on right at the end to further tire sort of defenders out and to nip in at the back post for a goal. I'm all for it, but there's just something that just I don't feel sort of massively confident with him at the moment starting.
Yeah, I think with Gakpo, it's a weird one for me because I do like him as a player. I definitely like him as a player, but like I seen someone compare him recently to Havertz, and I was a bit like, you know what, I actually see it in the sense that like he hasn't really got a spot at the minute, he hasn't really got a place. Yeah, he's a bit in between everything. And I think a couple of weeks ago I compared him on a show to he was like a bit of a black hole I felt in midfield in terms of like the game kind of passes him by a little bit, doesn't get on the ball as often as you'd want him to. And if you're playing in the middle of the park, he kind of needs to do that, especially going to dominate the game. So yeah, he's one to keep an eye on, I think, isn't he?
I remember at times last season, whenever we saw him in the midfield, one of the things that I really liked about him was that he drives Liverpool forward. He really gets us forward quite quickly. We've got Gravenberch and Szoboszlai do that for us now. So I feel as if that sort of like, you know, that looked great whenever we had the other defenders, the midfielders that we had last season, but not that I don't think we necessarily need him in that position.
I just wouldn't mind a 4th forward on the pitch. Whether it's whichever one it is. Like, and you said that's where we're strong. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the idea of almost going, right, okay, you think you're going to have to deal with 3 of these, but actually today, not least because we've got a couple of deficiencies, a couple of concerns, you're dealing with 4, and they're all capable of scoring a goal. And if you're going to do the thing that you did against Chelsea, where you're just going to sit in and you're going to say, go on, break us down, well, we've got creativity, but we've also just got goal-scoring instinct, which, by the way, Chelsea didn't have. You know what I mean? They haven't got the same goals. We've got 4 lads. We could pick 4 lads who are all capable of getting 20 a season. Yeah. And I just sort of wonder if that's the way home again. You just say we're going to kick the doors out.
And Gakpo's another one who gets big goals for someone who, you know, people say, oh, you know, he's in and out of games and sorts of stuff like that. Well, I think he is there when it matters. You know, you look at him this season, you know, he gets the goal at Spurs. Yeah, we end up sort of getting beat, but, you know, he's the one who sort of puts the ball in the back of the net to make it 1-1. He gets the big goal. Where are we? Rubbish Wolves. He sort of gets the big goal there, and so, you know, he's got those ones in him. I think he's on 4 for the season now, which, you know, isn't bad. Do you know what I mean? We're only in early November, and yeah, everyone else has got more, but that's a nice problem to have. Someone's going to be 5th out of it, and so I think, you know, he is a goal scorer as well. He's not prolific like a Salah, but, you know, he does come up with the big ones. So I'd be quite happy to see him on the pitch, especially if you know, if there is no Gravenberch, then, you know, I think he might end up being your best option.
Okay, going to win the game?
Yeah, an uneventful 2-0.
Uneventful 2-0? I'd see that as an event.
Yeah, do bad things for that.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1, I think,
2-1? Yeah. 3-1. Okay, marvellous stuff. Thank you very much indeed to Nova Scotia, to Erdinger, to Craig, to John and to Josh. I think it's going to be fine, you know. I think we're a good side, and I think we've got a great record at home. I think all these lads, they're worrying for nothing, up the Reds.